those pages, a sci-fi or fantasy, whatever genre you please. Join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club by DLC.
Hello, book clubbers! Welcome back. Hope you're dancing in your seat. It's great to see ya. I'm Jeff Kanata. I'm here with Lana Bashinsky, he said very casually. Hi, Lana.
Hello. Good morning. One of those mornings, Just
It is.
little...
It's one of those mornings. It is one of those mornings, one of those weeks, one of those years, one of that lifetimes.
Yep.
We're delighted to be with you. We got some really interesting chapters to get to. Chapters 11 and 12 this week of Reaper's Gale. Some interesting revelations, some cool stuff. But you know that we like to start the book club with a non-spoiler topic. And we got some folks sending in topics. We love it when that happens. Please continue to do so. dlcfeedback@gmail.com is the best place. You can also post them in our Discord, which is 5x5 DLC on Discord, the book club thread there. And also, we have, comments on the YouTube if you want to do that. But this one comes to us via email from Colin. Colin writes, Dear Lana and Jeff, first time, long time. Inspired by your latest episode to send in this non-spoiler topic idea. Your theme song talks about using books as an escape from reality. Fantasy is certainly a good way to do that. And Tolkien was a big proponent of escapism, likening it to a prisoner escaping captivity. On the other hand, fantasy like Malazan can sometimes feel almost anti-escapist, forcing the reader to confront harsh realities in the real world. For example, the patriotists, albeit with the fantasy elements sometimes helping to make it more palatable. For yourselves, how much of your reading do you think serves to let you escape, and how much of it helps you to engage? When is escapism a good thing? Do you ever worry about indulging too much in escapism? I would love to hear your thoughts. Best, Colin. Great question, Colin. Thank you for that. Lana, what do you think? Escapism. How much of it is at play?
A fantastic question. I really love this. I think escapism is interesting because even though I read primarily fantasy, sci-fi books, I've never thought of my enjoyment of them and my indulgence of them as escaping. Like it brings joy to my life, but I never feel like I'm reading because I'm like, I gotta get out. I sort of liken it to like if I go bowling and have a good time with my friends, am I escaping? It's like I'm just enjoying an experience. And so for me, I don't feel like I've ever felt like I'm escaping when I'm going into another world, when I'm enjoying the books that I'm reading. But I will say that reading Reaper's Gale and Erikson's work so far, it has very explicitly not been escaping. It has been very like a forcing function, for lack of a better word, because it's one of those mornings I'm going to be tripping over my words the whole time, I'm sure. It explicitly makes me think more about life. So I don't know if that makes sense, where it's like if there's the whole spectrum, I'm sort of sitting on neutral to one end of it with books mostly.
I agree. I'm in the same boat. That's what I want.
Yes.
I want art to recontextualize the real world for me, or clarify, or make me feel closer to humanity. And I think for me, fantasy and science fiction and genre storytelling of all sorts has a unique ability to do that, because when you deal with, metaphor and allegory, oftentimes you get even more clarity about what you are dealing with day to day. You're, for some reason, there is this ability for an abstraction or a metaphor for an idea, or a completely disconnected from any real direct reference, to actually resonate even more profoundly for me.
Yeah.
And I certainly find that with Erikson. We talk about that all the time in our episodes. And, Colin even references that with, in his question about being a sort of anti-escapism. I don't know if it's anti-escapism. It still brings me joy and thrill and all of the things I look for in entertainment, as you were talking about. I'm entertained, but I also like to be challenged and my thoughts to be provoked, right?
Yes,
and I'm looking for that
absolutely.
with anything.
And I feel like, I brought it up on the Wednesday show, the paid DLC show on Patreon, where I feel like for these books and through our interviews with Erikson, being able to like read this and even through this fantasy lens, see an experience that feels resonant can feel comforting in a way.
Yeah.
Even when it's about dark subject matter, even when it's about
Yes.
scary places and things and events happening to people, it feels less lonely in a way.
Yes, 100%.
Not that I feel like actively lonely, but
Yeah.
we had our conversation, I think it was our last interview with Erikson, where you specifically asked him about how the themes in the book feel so driven and tied directly to things that are happening politically, IRL, all the time. And Erikson responded being like, that's just the story of history. These are just things that happen over and over again. And you look through the history books, it's like, yeah, history repeating itself, for better or for worse, baby. But there is like a comfort in that, in being like, well, the world has persevered so far, even though it's the Malazan world that we're looking at it.
Right.
Being able to think about that and have those conversations, I don't think that's a conversation I would have had without this. Obviously not with Mr. Erikson if we hadn't had this through this experience, but it is a thoughtfulness and a depth of thinking, and I don't think every reading experience has to be that. I like a little popcorn book. I like something that is purely entertainment too, but I think best of both worlds.
I honestly, I do have a concern sometimes that I turn away too much or am, seek comfort in shutting off the brain a bit, especially with the world as it is now. I have spent the vast majority of my lifetime professionally praising and shining the spotlight on things that traditionally take our eye off the ball, that are entertainment, right? That are meant to be entertainment. That I'm talking about
media,
big blockbuster movies and goofy comedy TV shows and comic books and things that, and novels for that matter. But, part of me feels I don't know if guilt is the right word, but a sense of maybe, I don't know, worry that I have spent too much time focusing on things that are ultimately trivial. But I do think great art, even entertainment, even entertaining art and sort of light, fluffy art, has a function and also can be a prism through which we think about our lives and our place in the world. And so I don't think that, I have, there's a quote that I did not invent, but I have definitely co-opted and used many, many times in my professional life, which is, a moment enjoyed is not wasted.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, right? I do believe that, but I also very much appreciate works like Malazan that can do both. Like, get you a book that do both. You know what I mean? Like the thrilling entertainment, and there's certainly in these chapters we're going to talk about today some thrilling entertainment, but also, ways to look at the world and ways to think about the world, as we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great question, Colin.
Thank
you for sending it in. Again, if you have other topics that you'd like us to consider, please don't hesitate. dlcfeedback@gmail.com. And we'd also love to get your perspective on this. Do you feel like, where do you come down on this notion of escapism in the media that you consume? All right. That said, let's move into spoilers, starting now for chapters 11 and 12 of Reaper's Gale. We start with a character I didn't think we'd see again, frankly. I should know by now. But it's the old hunch, Arbat.
Good old hunch.
I'm gonna call him a poop collector. Retired poop collector now, though.
And a bit of a poop stirrer.
Indeed. What does one do with one's life after one retires from the poop collecting game? Well, it turns out
only uphill from here, baby.
That's right.
What, downhill? I don't remember. I said that wrong. It's one of those mornings. Keep talking.
I hope you go uphill because you don't want it to be downhill from where you collected the poop.
But doesn't going downhill imply it's easier?
Yeah, I just don't want anything to roll after you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
Anyway, so he sort of has this this vision, I guess, this notion that he's got to leave his village behind. Things have not been good since he stopped collecting the poop. People are not happy. They've got all this poop and they need somebody to collect it.
But are they kind to this person who does this horrible job? No, they hate
Why
this
would they
person.
Be? That's right.
God.
Peeing on his doorstep? Not cool.
I mean, it seemed, that was a lie, but like, right. I think he lied about that, but I felt like it was drawn from history.
No, I think that the peeing on the doorstep was not a lie, but the fact that he sets fire to his own house.
Yes.
Right? We know that.
Yeah.
Because he had a dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
a vision.
So he sets fire to his own house, and then his friends show up. Friends is not the right word. People show up. The Factor, which wasn't that a Jersey Shore guy? The Factor?
I don't know. I did not. That's the situation.
That's the situation. Yeah, you're right. The Factor shows up and is like, "Hey, bro, your house is on fire. Who could have done it?" And he's like, "Boy, that's a real mystery." And he's like, "Oh, that guy that hates you, Vrager. That guy hates you. He hates you." He's like,
"That's the one."
Definitely that guy.
I love his
peed on
calm
my house.
regard of just like, "What are you saying? Sure. Yep. You're right. You got it."
Yep. Boy, we really should. He's like, "Oh, do you want to lodge a formal complaint against Vrager?" He's like, "I don't think I'm going to go that far."
Will he be strung up or dismembered by the Idir regionally?
Yeah.
Then, nah.
It's like, I don't like him, but I don't want to see him dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, I don't dead not like him,
I dislike him almost as equally as everyone for the last however many years.
And then the Atrapreta Yantovis shows up and is like, "Hey, what's going on? There's fires. Everything okay? What's going on?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's cool though, because like I made sure that the fire wouldn't. It just happens to be the
fire's
case
fine.
It's not going to spread. There's a real delineation line between where the fire can. It's like I like how he really thought this through and he's like, I'm going to set fire to my house, but I don't want to hurt anybody else."
Mm-hmm. I love, he must have so few belongings, but I love the idea that he's like got all his stuff that he needs.
Yeah.
And they're like so convenient that you happen to have your bag and your house is burning down. Who could it have been?
You seem so unconcerned with your house on fire. Yeah. I guess I got to leave town now because nowhere to live. Oh, well. Yeah. So he points Yantovis to an abandoned homestead that they can stay in. I love the part where he's like, she's like, "Are you sure it's still abandoned?" He's like, "Yeah, the smell really keeps people away, but now it'll actually smell like delightful burning
campfire."
cinder."
Yeah. Like he's like, "Oh, it's empty. All right, it's downwind of my place." So
yeah. But now it's going to smell great, and it'll keep the bugs away. So really, whoever set that fire is really doing a service for this town. I love that scene. Very funny.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we will see him again. I'm curious.
We will for sure, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like he's on a quest of some kind.
Well,
quest.
Folks reading this, who are reading along with us, this is the guy who was bearing the Toblakai god statues
That's
with
right.
the town's excrement
That's
as
right.
we are explicitly not worshiping you
Yeah.
to like keep them
And
powerless.
these are the Unbound, right?
Yes.
The 7 Unbound, of which we will find one in the next chapter we will get to today.
Yeah.
So the next, more comedy. I love that we're like full in comedy in chapter 11.
Full in comedy, but I also just want to every chapter bit. I felt like across both of the chapters 11 and 12, I felt like every single one I went, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I took a note of like, here's the interesting thing from every single one, because I know I'm going to forget one, but I'm very ripe with juicy little deets throughout. And
Juicy
comedy.
deets. Yeah. Comedy bits with juicy deets, which is a good combo.
That's our review. Slap that on the back of the book.
Put that on Mr. Erikson. Put that on the back cover for the next one. Comedy bits with juicy deets. We're selling precisely 0 books for you, but that's okay.
The same eloquence as Mr. Erikson presents himself.
You will marvel at the prose in these juicy bits. All right, next comedy bit. I love this next scene. We start with Tehol like on the roof, looking down at everybody, trying to be so stealthy. Yeah, skulky. And fooling no one. Bug's like, yeah, he's up there. And they got the hens. They're living the hen life.
Mm-hmm.
This is like sweet, sweet chicken town now.
A feast.
We went through a period of scarcity with regard to everything, with Tehol and Bugg. And now we're living that sweet chicken life.
Mm.
It's all chicken all the time. We got pillows being made. We got soup being cooked.
Mm-hmm.
We got, it is just delightful chicken time.
Yep.
What could go wrong? Tehol is up there looking down. Bug's like, can you just tell him to come down here? And of course he
He
flashes everybody on his way down. It's very funny.
I forgot. This is like him in their house. He's up on the roof, staring down at the girl who he has a crush on.
Yeah, Janeth.
Janeth.
Miss Janeth, if you're nasty, which I saw somebody put in the comments, but I will not claim credit for that one. That's a good one. And this scene is delightful because Ubala just keeps getting stupider, which is so much fun to read, like big, dumb, goofy oaf.
Mm-hmm.
They have that moment where, he steps on the chicken. And they're like, well, you're eating that one. He's like, okay. And Janeth is like, save me some feathers. And he's like, oh, okay.
But they're like, but can you go away to do it?
Yeah, we're not going to watch you
he's going to eat all the bones.
Just raw, squished chicken. Just stepped on a chicken. And now that was the preparation process for eating it. That was the entire process.
Yeah, now it's even more tender.
Yeah. And he goes to he goes out back to go to the bathroom. He's like, I gotta go to the bathroom first. And they're like, okay, there's a bush out there you can use for, And he comes back and he's like, that bush tasted terrible. And there's a line where it's like all 3 of them just stare at him.
I also just love how it's written that he is sort of word associating with everything other people say. So even as a reader, you're like, what? And
he's trying so hard.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, you can go over there.
He's trying so hard to keep up, and it's just beyond his capacity,
Poor blah blah. Ooh, blah blah. Ooh, la,
blah, blah. And Janeth has been healed, and she's like, why is it my brain different? And Bugg points out that she's doing that part. She's kind of protecting herself. And Ubala decides that Tehol needs to meet the Toblakai champion, which of course we know is Karsa Orlong. So he's like, you got to come with me. We got to go. You got to meet the champion. And
so here's my question. I guess Bugg just poised himself as a healer, or is everybody like, yeah, there he is, just doing magic?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess magic is common enough that it's not super surprising, but yeah, nobody's like, hey, there's an elder god.
Yeah. And she's not like, hey, I remember when you bent that metal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, then we hop over to another character that I wasn't sure we would see more of. Or two characters, I should say. It's our old friends, the Rat Catchers Guild, Ormley and Rucket, and they have another delightful exchange that's it's humorous in its own way too. And they're talking about how basically discussing what's been going on and how they're trying to figure out like where did Tehol put all that money? Because he collected all the coin and I think Ormley's like, I figured it out. It's in the bottom of the river. Like that's the only place he could put it. And I think it's Rucket who says no, because he says he can pull it out whenever he wants. Can't pull it out of the river easily. So where is it?
But he can, right? Because male.
Because male.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're also talking about how they want to sort of take down the patriotist, how the scale house has collapsed. Rucket has sent all the rats looking through the crypts, for the money. And then Un, that Tarthanol that killed Garen Ebericht, is there also and gets some wine for them. So there's still the Rat Catchers Guild is we're not done with the Rat Catchers Guild. There's more to happen with them, I think.
Yeah. And this whole conversation, I almost highlighted it as a section that I really liked, and I do in that it's resonant, but I didn't because I was also like, it's too real. If you have ever been a woman professional in a space,
I haven't.
If you have, and you're listening and you're not Jeff Kanata, that guy who's like, you're doing it on purpose, aren't you? Oh, he's a real guy and he's always there. It's so well done. And Rucket just being like, I guess I'll mess with you here. And like letting conversations go, but then bringing it back around. It's sort of like this weird conversation, weird manipulation that is also just like, you're trying to have, like, you're talking with your colleague and then somebody like interjects with dumb stuff like that. You're like, okay, fine, I'll mess with you. What else? What other choice do I have in this situation? Ooh, it was just a resonant little hit there. So amazing, amazing little nuanced piece there.
Love that. The next scene, we are in the POV of the Errant, who is just kind of strolled down to check out that demon spirit god that was imprisoned in the ice, that was trapped by Kuru Khan and Bugg and the Jagged Huntress at the end of Midnight Tide?
Midnight Tide.
Yeah. Not sure it's all running together. But yes, we know, of course, that was a big moment. And he's like checking out the lake, the spirit god. And he's like, well, I wonder why they did this. It's weird that Male is kind of taking sides and doing this stuff. And he's kind of thinking about how Male gets power from his worshipers, but they spill blood in his name and all of it very disconnected from what I perceive of as Bugg, which is interesting to me. I
mean, every time people talk about Male, it's like the violence, the power, and he's like, "I'm cooking a shoe."
Right. But we did see him like
explode a guy.
Yeah, explode a guy. Send a guy into the water doom.
We know it's there, but it is very interesting. In how we've actually seen him. Firsthand.
So then the Errant goes down into the depths below the city and finds the Feather Witch in her secret chamber.
And did we know that the Errant could just be a ghost?
Is he a ghost?
Well, he's like he like dips through the floor and he's like just kind of.
I think he has god powers, so he can sort of do what he wants.
But I think this is like the first time, like we've always seen him kind of walking around being a guy, and like knowing he has powers, and him talking about how he used to be so strong. But then this is the first time that he's like, and now slip. I liked the casualness with which he does something that we haven't seen anybody else do, who isn't literally a ghost.
Right. Well, speaking of literal ghosts, then we get the actual ghost of Kuru Khan who shows up and is like, "Hey, just a little word of warning. I feel like you got a tinge of evil in you from the demon god.
You were hanging close to that ice block for too long, and now." You got a look in your eye, and consider not killing Feather Witch.
Yes. But the Errant really wants to become the master of tiles again, really wants to have his power back. And he wants to, conduct this war against the Warrens, the tiles versus the Warrens. Like, obviously the Warrens have usurped the tiles and the holds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he wants to sort of take things back to how they used to be, power-wise.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think he got that juicy date from, I forget who now, of the Beast Hold being open now, and he's like, a
From
hold?
Fenner.
From Fenner. Oh, he was, a hold is open? So I feel like he's already dwelling like, holds are making a comeback, baby. We are so back.
Holds are back, baby.
I just gotta get some mortal blood, and then we are in it.
Yeah.
And so that
and
plus...
like, that's exactly what the crippled god wants. So check yourself before you wreck yourself, Errant.
He's like, I know there's like a war among the gods and I'm a god, but like, what if I made a different war between the holds and the tiles?
Yeah. So he's like, speaking of mortal blood, I'm going to just cut a witch. And he does. He cuts the feather witch. He grabs her and stabs her. And she's not happy about that. And this is the coolest thing. She takes the fingy, the
Bris-Benedict fingy.
Bris-Benedict's fingy, stabs him right in the eye.
Brutal. Another lost eye.
Another lost eye. It's a recurring motif.
Eye spot talks next body.
Yes, I love the way this plays out too over the next few scenes, how we like go back and forth between Featherwitch and the Errant in these scenes. They're really brief, but we're kind of like seeing like he runs away and we see her and him and her and him. It's such a cool pacing thing that happens right there that it made me, real page turner for me. And the whole thing of her like, I'm dying. I'm going to die. Somebody better call Kurokan, please call somebody, call a healer. And he's like, I'm a ghost. What can I can't do nothing. and then she's like, okay, well, I got one thing I can do.
I stole his eyeball.
Gloop, glurp, gulp.
It's like a survivor challenge. Little fear factor for you.
So rad. That moment I was like, oh! And we immediately cut over to the Errant. He's like, "Oop! I felt that. Felt some power leave me."
Well, I love it because he was like, "I want followers again. I want people to actually. I want to be back." Because he had already sort of revealed that he let himself fade to somewhat obscurity because people don't actually follow him, but they say his name enough as like, Errant, take this. Like it's a curse that he's not he's not completely powerless and forgotten. But with this act, she's like, he calls out like, I want followers, but not followers I have to listen to, like Mail. People are constantly calling that guy. He's not doing anything for them.
Right.
But if he has I forget the word that he uses, like a prime follower, like the priest of his people effectively, then he has to listen to that person's prayers. And by eating the eyeball, she's like, I'm your gal, baby.
Yeah.
And like takes his stuff, which I think is a very cool, like she also knows what's up because she'd been throwing bones as tiles. She's more into the hold meta. She could figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that happens before that I totally skipped over is that he like throws down that knife and it stabs into one of the tiles. And he's like, oh, which tile did I stab? I stabbed myself. My tile. Not cool.
I like that he's like, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
That can't possibly mean anything bad that I put a knife through the center of my tile.
Of all the tiles it could have landed and stabbed into with blood seeping out of it, it was mine.
There's no chance that's an omen.
But yes, so the Feather Witch becomes, by eating his eye, as we all know, classic eye-eating scenario.
As is her right.
She becomes the Destral Anant of the Empty Throne.
Mm.
And then she's like, I demand you bring Bris-Benedict back. Use his fingy and bring him back. and he will become your mortal sword.
Mm-hmm,
And I was like, oh, sick. We're going to get prosthetic back. But he doesn't do it. He
Sassy
doesn't
boy.
do it yet. Maybe yet. I don't know yet.
Somebody doing something.
Somebody doing something. But she's also like, she's like, hey, so ate your eyeball. I have a few suggestions. Bring back prosthetic mortal sword. Also, you need a shield anvil. Got the perfect guy. I hate him. He's a real jerk. Udnas. Get that guy in here. Shield anvil time. Boom. We're a whole group. I got your eyeball. It's all great.
Mm-hmm.
And Errant's like, this is not good. I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Incredible sequence, I thought. I was just so into it. I just that whole is completely unexpected, like how she deals with it, which makes, we'll get to it, but it makes the next thing that happens to her feel, I was like, she's so capable and strong and smart and resourceful. And then later on, she just gets
got.
Yeah. Anyway, before that, we head over to see Samar Dev and Karsa. Karsa is fighting someone named Gadalanak.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a cool name. And basically they're just like bored waiting to fight Rulad. And so they're just staging their own like practice fights.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is trying to beat Karsa and nobody can.
Karsa's basically like, next.
Yeah. Yes. And there's this Segula woman who's just kind of standing there ominously, and everybody's like, oh, she's the one. She can fight him. And
I was waiting for like, how many lines are on the mask?
I know, right?
But the fact
which position is she? Yeah.
But the fact that there's like a couple things that she's not talking to anybody, which implies that she doesn't have respect for anybody around her, thinks she's better than everybody.
Yeah.
But also Samara's
they just don't talk, right? The Segula don't talk.
They don't talk to people who they think are not worthy of them. They
That's
talk
right.
to
Good
people
point.
who are more worthy. But then Samara also points out like, what does the writing on the mask mean? And the fact that she called it writing on the mask, I'm like, she got lots of lines.
Yeah, that's a good point. And she's also kind of putting together the sort of history of the Segula, how they're like, there's a Segula is this first empire word that means anvil.
Mm-hmm.
And so she thinks that they were like this troop that were left on an island and then just sort of became their own people, which I thought was neat. That's a neat little backstory moment. But then the ghost of Kuro Khan's like, hey, Samar Dev. She's like, chill. And she's like, oh, I don't like ghosts. No, chill.
She like leaves first because she's like watching the sparring stuff, and then she like senses something, and she's like, I'm gonna go to my room, and she like wards her space, and then Kuro Khan shows up.
Well, she's like ticked at Karsa. She's like, ugh, I'm just gonna watch him beat up people again. I'm gonna go to my room.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kuro Khan's like, hey, don't get spooked. I'm just a ghost. But I'm a friendly ghost. And also, I need you to heal somebody for me. It's really urgent right now. Because this scene clearly is happening concurrently with the last scene with the Feather Witch, because they like feel the disturbance in the forest. Basically, They feel like the ground tremble.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, it's like the errant power coming back that Samar's like, what in the heck?
Right. Yes. And Kuro Khan's like, you gotta, like, she asked me to find a healer and you can heal. So like, could you heal her? She's like, who am I healing? He's like, Feather Witch. She's like, no way. That bitch. I'm not.
I know. She's like, what? I'd rather kill her. Stab. And he's like, I'm a ghost. And he's like, oh no, ghost stab. And he gets sucked into her dagger. Samar's
like, whoa. Way to overreact, Samar Dev.
How quickly she was like, over my dead body. I was like, that is so funny as a reaction. And then the fact that she's like, not only will I not heal her, I will also kill you.
I will trap you in my knife. And Krokon's like, I was just trying to do something nice.
I was like, dang, that's really caught in the crossfire. Literally stabbing the messenger there.
Yeah. Yes. Stabbing the messenger for sure.
Also then Samar, like we've seen, like we haven't really seen her do
witchy stuff.
And that was like, whoa. I mean, I know he's a ghost now, but that was still the Seida's ghost. And just being able to be like, "Tuh,
Yeah.
into my blade.
Like, who
was
else
like,
has she got in there?
what the heck is that? And then she was like, another one.
Yeah. I know. I
Interesting.
felt bad for Kurokan. He's just like, I was trying to get somebody some sweet healing.
I know. I'm like, I like that guy.
And then Karsa comes strolling into her room and she's like, but the wards, you're not supposed to be. Okay, come right in. And she's like, I've never seen anybody stroll through my wards. Like only a god should be able to do that. And he's like, piff, you're gods. But of course we know he's like made of Totterol. So like magic powerless against Karsa. And he's like, why'd you stab that ghost? That doesn't seem like a kind of thing you would do. And I was like, as I was reading, I was like, I agree. What was up with that?
Just such an extreme outburst.
Yeah.
And she's like,
real overreaction.
He says something about her dagger, because it is a dagger that she uses. And she's like, oh, yeah. And you're a stranger to trapping some people in swords?
Yeah. He's like, they want to be in my sword. They're like my old
love
pals.
the sword.
They love it there. It's their favorite place to be.
But she does call out that it is a warren in his blade. And
well, she says it is, and he says, no, it's not, right?
Well, he says, well, that's just because he's kind of like a magic denier in general, right? I think.
Yeah.
But she's like, this not as unique as you think it is, which I really think is funny, implying, she's like, I know about Dragnapur, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Not the only sword warren. But he says it's not, which I'm inclined to agree because he's like physically a magic denier. But it also makes sense. But they're both like sword people and swords, little buddies, but we hate each other.
I also like that he's like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna go fight that Segula lady now, and like the whole reason he came to her room was like, you don't want to miss this.
Yeah. And she's like, as if I care.
I know. She's like, I left for a reason, doofus. And he's like, no. She finally agreed to fight me now. It's like, come watch. It's gonna be sweet.
Fine. And then she goes out there. And this was such a peculiar scene. A lot of tension, a lot of buildup. And like sort of mounting tensions and like just like noticing who's around. So Karsa goes back to the ring. Samar's like, okay, fine, I do really want to see this. Chases him out there, like hustles it so she doesn't miss the beginning.
Yeah.
And the competence of the initial part of the fight, where the Segula woman is described as prowling around like a true fighter. They really feel like their martial prowess is well matched in this moment. And then Samar is sitting there and she's noticing, okay, Tomat is here witnessing the fight. Ikarium is there.
Terralak Veed.
Terralak Veed is there. There's a whole, I think, doesn't Hanan Mosag also like crawl over and like witness through his little goober?
No, I don't think he's there, but
I felt like there was a third person, but I don't remember who it was. But I remember the audience and Samar calling out like, man, you don't want to do this in front of these people.
Right.
And expecting it to be so explosive. But then Karsa pretty handily is just like, I break your bones and now I dangle you.
But I think that is what she didn't want them to see. She didn't want to see how good he is.
I know that's what she didn't want them to see, but I was still surprised with the buildup.
Well, I think it further elevates how much better Karsa is than everyone.
Yeah.
It's like basically what happens is Tomat is there like, well, we're saving him till last because he's the best. So like the Segula woman, everybody else was scared of, and he just dispatches her. It's such a rad way to do it too. He just like smacks the ground and it disrupts her just a fraction of a second, but that's enough to, snap her wrist. And then she's like, I'm gonna still kick you in the crotch. He's like, nope, got you laid. Basically how I fight my 6-year-old. And by fight, I mean play with. But you know what I mean? When my 6-year-old and I are in mortal combat with each other.
The audience of the rest of your family just like, no, this can't be this way.
Only one of us can face off against my wife, who is the emperor.
The thing I really like about this whole scene is like tension's like, okay, Akarium's there, Tomad's here. Okay, something has happened. Tomad's calling out Karsa needs to be last. Karsa absolutely annihilates this other warrior. Akarium's like, it's fine, like leaves because like, and Samar thinks it's because Akarium knows that they would explode the world if they started fighting right now. And then the whole scene kind of ends with Karsa being like, I know you're mad, but you want to bang?
yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I get breakthrough awards if you want.
And she's like, no, but also kind of yes.
As appealing as you made splitting me in half sound, I'm saying no for now.
Yeah. You can tell she's kind of into it, though.
There's always been this little bit of a sexy tension between these two.
Little flirty flirts. Yeah. Yeah. She hates him, but she can't deny he's a bad boy. He's a real bad boy.
Did she chase him out of the room or not? He knew.
This is a real Grease 2 moment. You know what I'm saying?
I thought the same thing. And we cut to the scene where, what's his name? It's Akarium and guy.
Terralak
Veed. And Akarium's like, I think I've met that guy before. And Terralak's, it must have been Mappo who stopped it.
It must have been when he was with his other best friend. Yeah. And then also Karsa's like, I am going to fight that dude and we're going to finish what we started. Mm-hmm. And Smart Dev's like, that's just an extraordinarily bad idea. And he's like, well, I'm going to kill him. It's like, that's not good. So then we cut over to Hanan Mosag, who is basically just appealing to Mother Dark and Father Shadow, just saying, please help me make an alliance between the Andi, the Leosen, the Idur.
And he's in like a pure version of Corral Demerlan, right?
Yes,
he's like,
that's my understanding.
A fragment. I couldn't tell if he really was or if it was like a projection in his brain or like.
Well, he wants to fuse the fragments together. He wants to reform Corral Demerlan.
Yeah.
And use the crippled god's chains to do that, right? Like pull it together.
He's like, put a couple hooks on these great bungee cords.
So useful.
Strap them up.
I'm not going to buy my own chains when this dude literally has chains.
He's got a whole house of them.
It's a house of chains. In fact, where else are you going to go to get chains then? The House of Chains. Come on down to the House of Chains. All right. But then he sort of ends that scene with this mysterious foreboding where he's like, I accept a Letheri as the mortal sword of Emerlon. So I don't know who that is. But I think it's mysterious.
It was interesting because I assumed that was also, I mean, doesn't he say something about Brice Benedict?
You think that's who it is? Oh, maybe. Yeah, there is this notion of he was the mortal sword before he died.
They said his name.
Yeah.
Erikson had written his name. But I can't tell then if the Errant was just like, hell no. And so he was available, or if now there's going to be like a god battle over who gets to pick Brice on their team.
Interesting. And then Hanan Mosag wakes up and Bruthen Trana's there. He's like, oh God. All right. He's like, what do you, I want you to do something for me. 2 things, actually. Go west and find someone who is dead but not dead, whose tomb has always been empty, never spoken of, but always present. Do you have any ideas?
I also just thought that was Brice.
Dead but not dead, whose tomb has always been empty. But he doesn't have a tomb, does he? Never spoken of, but always present? I don't know. I was trying to figure out who that was, but I don't even know if that might be an entirely new character.
That's true. But I guess because of the connection of like the thread.
Yeah.
Of I assume that he like came out of that thing, was like, find the Letheri. And he was like, dude, go find the Letheri. And so I assume that he was taken by And doesn't he say, oh, you have to go pry it out of Mael's hands because Mael's the one who took his physical body away. So
Well, he does say, I can't really tell you exactly because Cripple God's listening. And I'm like, but if he's listening, he heard you say all this stuff. So
here's
awkward.
Also, in this, I also like that he sort of reminisces about like, if I had gotten that sword and not Rulad, I so would have stuck it to the Cripple God and used him to my means.
Right.
And then done away with him. And even though he's kind of this, goober who seems like a nefarious little dude, the fact that he's like, I just want to bring everything together doesn't seem so evil in this moment.
Yeah.
Especially because it's like, well, we like Bruthen. But then Bruthen's like, that dude sucks.
He does say that. He really hates him. And the other thing he says, well, first you got to go and get an item from the Feather Witch. And so Bruthen's like,
yeah, that's why I thought it was Brees. Because he goes,
it might
the
be.
fingy.
It might very well be. It could. Yeah. I mean, that does seem logical, but I'm not entirely certain. Anyway, before we get back to Bruthen, we check back in with Tehol and Ubala, who are skulking.
This is the scene I was thinking of earlier.
He's teaching him to skulk.
Well, they're like skulking. He's like, skulk this way, and he goes, okay, stop. Do a practice skulk.
Yeah, he's like, terrible at skulking. He's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Because they're trying to get in to see Karsa, but it's guarded. He's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a distraction. And Tehel's like, Oblala, you're terrible at distractions. I remember what happened with Shirk. It was real bad. He's like, no. You're the distraction. And Tehel's like, that's a terrible idea. I don't want to be the distraction. And then as they're having this conversation, the gods are like, hey, what are you guys doing over there?
There's no skulking over here.
And they just bolt in opposite directions. So funny.
Excellent.
Then we're back with Bruthen. And he's like, I hate Hanan Mosag. What a jerk. But, I mean,
the leader of our people.
Yeah, what are you going to do? And so he wants to free the Lothari slaves and get rid of all the Patriotists and Karos Invictad, which is like, kudos to that. I support that position. But he not a very nice person because he walks into the Feather Witch, who's just kind of cowering and scared, and he picks her up.
He's like, bam, 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 give me that.
Yeah, he just walks in. He's like, I need that. Bye. And I was just bummed because she was been so awesome. I was like waiting for her to do something to stop that, but she does not.
I thought that was such a strange scene as well. I expected to be this interesting confrontation. I expected her to be like release the Errant's power that she has. Yeah, she's empowered now. Or like whatever's happening, but she's like, aye, and then he smashes her head into a wall and takes the fingy and is just pieces out. I don't know if that's supposed to be like, well, Bruthen's a badass, or if it was just like Feather Witch.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's just like, somebody's got to have brace, and if I got to take a head wound for it. So
I was wondering if she was, I kept waiting for there to be some clue that she was allowing this to happen in some way or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So Tehol, he bolted back home. He comes back in and he's like, Janath and Bugg are drinking their hen tea. And he's like, oh, yeah, I lost Ubala. He's probably going to go try to talk to that Tarthanol dude and find out if he's a new god or just an ascendant.
I also love this scene because they walk in, they're having hen tea, and they're like, And Bugg's like, you want some? He's like, I guess so. He goes, feathers or no feathers? And he's like thinking about feathers in hot liquid is like,
so
and Tehol's
gross.
like, I guess with feathers. And Bugg's like, that's my guy.
He's like, I've never had it with. I've never even, sounds new, at least. Something different.
I've like accidentally gotten a feather in my mouth from a pillow. Bad experience.
Yeah.
Hen tea with feathers in it. Really gnar.
Yeah. So then we find out where Ubala went. He did indeed get into the compound where all the fighters are, and he makes it to Samar Dev's room, And he's like, hey, could you point me toward the guy who looks like me, real big, brawny, probably kind of a jerk? Can you let me know?
She's like eye rolling out of her head, be like, these fools.
Yeah. So I know who you're talking about. And then she takes him over to Karsa, and Ubala immediately kneels before him, and he's like, my master. He's like, smack, nobody kneels. No Toblikai kneels.
It's so
He's like, oh,
funny.
so right. You're so right, leader. Oh, you're so right.
I just love that as a first impression.
Yeah.
My lord, no.
Yeah. So basically what happens is he's like, yes, this is Karsa's like, yeah, I got my first soldier in my army. We're getting the gang back together. We're getting all the Tarthanol. Doesn't matter if they have even a single drop of Toblikai blood. They're my boys.
He's like, I knew my people were out there. This is the start of it. I told you that I would do thousands of lead thousands of my people. This is number one.
Here we go.
What's up, buddy? And he's like, and they tried to drown me once. And Samar's like, he's not all that. And they're both kind of like, he's cool. He's still cool. And Samar's like, I would just like to let you know, I'm not going to haunt you with it just yet, but he didn't even know how to find your room. So I'll save that one for later.
So brilliant. So brilliant. She's like, yeah, he's a real genius. He couldn't even find your room. Drawn to you across the tides and across the great land. Gets 90% there, can't find your room. Real genius, this kid.
He's like, 4 lungs, though.
Yeah.
Pretty sick.
And he says, hey, go to the islands and find all the people that fled and like round them up. Because their leader's back, baby.
Yeah.
So that's how chapter 11 ends. I loved chapter 11. I thought chapter 11 was awesome.
Spectacular.
Such a good one. Chapter 12. We start with Atrapreda Bivat. They're planning the battle that is to come. They know they're going to have to face off against Red Mask and the All.
All those guys.
All the people are going to fight them. And they're going to fight in Bast Fulmar Valley. Seems like a great idea from their perspective.
It seems like a great idea from their perspective, but even like Atri, Preda, Bivat, and crew are like, but isn't this like on their terms?
Yeah.
And they're like, that's fine.
But we're so awesome. We can't lose.
Their terms are still pathetic terms.
Yeah.
So we'll walk.
You know what?
We'll let
They
them.
think it's a win.
Yeah.
But we're so awesome. Yeah. So then we have another delightful scene. We go back to Takanaster, who is who has this beef with Torrent, that all warrior. And they have this like one-upsmanship game of like, who knows more secrets?
And both of them going back and forth are like, cool lies. Here's another secret. And they're like, that's a lie too. And they're like, well,
so funny. It's so funny. It's like, you don't even know. You don't even know. I know why Red Mask's sisters killed herself. Oh yeah? Well, the body I'm in eats people. Oh, really? Oh, well, guess what? I know that like there's like doing this one-upsmanship game. It's so hilarious. It's such a like child,
but
like
what's
playground thing.
Yes, like my dad can.
Yeah.
Yes. But was this scene even? I don't know if it was with Torrent directly. Wasn't it like an elder came by and was like, Torrent doesn't trust you because he thinks you're lying.
Yeah, the Renfayar elder. Which, by the way, Lana, have you ever gone to Renfayar?
I knew as soon as you said it where this was going.
I love dressing up and attending Renfayar.
Oh, my favorite. A good old horn of mead.
Yeah,
at the
turkey
Renfire.
leg.
Yeah.
Turkey leg at Renfayar.
He's the elder, like a ye old Renfire.
Yes. Yeah. The oldest of the Renfayars.
So I like that he comes in. He's like, Torrent doesn't trust you. They have this whole little showboatsmanship. And at the end of their little thing, they both kind of
Yeah.
And then Torrent like stands up from the bushes and walks away. Like he was like
Yeah.
sent the guy to be like, go ask him a bunch of questions or whatever it was, like suss him out. And he was
Yeah.
like watching and listening, was like
Yeah.
his little minion doing his work so he could eavesdrop. Is very funny.
That's true. The one-upsmanship is the Renfire elder and talk. And talk at the end is like, Torrent, I know you're there. And he's like,
Yeah.
it's so funny. Oh man. And also Talk hears a wolf howl, which is, I think, ominous.
Mhm.
Foreshadowing. All right, then we head over and we check back in with Hedge, who's still on the trail of that Lana Moss. And guess what? He finds him. Her, I should say.
Mhm.
Emroth is her name. She is one of the 7 Unbound. And he's like, basically just like mopes about how nobody ever loved him. My ears
Wasn't
are
he
too
like-
big.
Wasn't he kind of like, were you hot when you were alive?
Yeah. He's like, your
Yo,
face
you
is
ever
crushed.
hot? I
Your
was
face
never
is crushed.
hot.
It's
Yeah, I
true.
had money though, so I got it, you know.
Yeah. I
for
didn't
cash.
die a virgin or nothing.
But
But
were you
I
hot
didn't-
though? Please tell me. She's like, I don't know. Oh my god.
She's like, ew. And I think the big thing we find out here is, you know, she's like, oh, the Talanamas, we sacrificed ourselves for our vengeance. And we find out here that the Jagat, shocker, weren't all that bad. They were like, not that bad.
Just a couple baddies, and they
Just a-
mostly kept him in check.
They weren't even that dangerous. They fought amongst themselves. The Talanamas like literally obliterated themselves in this, you know, death cult for the chance to destroy the Jagat, and it didn't even need to.
Mm-hmm.
Not cool.
Which is one of those things that I'm like, I guess it's a revelation to hear it definitively
Yeah.
in the book, but just based upon all the J-Cut we've actually met, being like, I'm not really a bad guy.
Yeah. There's a few tyrants. I'll be honest.
But
There's a few Jagat tyrants. I don't like to hang out with them.
Even the tyrant is like, now I'm in the Zathos,
Yeah. Yeah.
keeping it safe.
You know, I turned over a new leaf. I really settled down, you know?
Yeah. I
Um,
was going to annihilate everyone, but that acorn really got me.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get to this point where they see Amtos Falak over the next. She's like, "There's my home. We're gonna head to my home." And he's like, "Okay, go to your home." Next scene is Udnas in a dream. Freaky dream. Freaky dream. Where he's surrounded by Forkrol assail corpses. The Errant shows up screaming, "Ah!" And then it's like, "Oh, Udnas, get over here."
Oh yeah, Unnas. I don't know if it's Featherwish in that's the thing I think I might have been thinking of earlier is I think the conversation between Featherwitch and because she was like, I know the guy that you want to have. He's going to be the right guy. I hate that guy.
Yeah,
but she
right.
calls out that Udnas is the right pick for them for some
Yes.
role.
And I think that's why the Errant
Is here.
is there. But we find out at the end that Udnas is like, I summoned you into my dream.
Yeah.
But Menandor is also there as a dragon in a dragon form. And she like burns all the Forkrol sail bodies, melting the fat off their bones.
Mm-hmm. She like
You.
prevents the Errant from. She basically stands between them.
Right.
She's like, "You're mine, baby boy," and the Errant's like, "Please, can I have that guy?" And she's like, "Fine, but not the baby."
He's my baby daddy.
Yeah.
And they come to an agreement where the Errant says, I'm good at nudging. I like that's all my whole thing is like nudges. I'm a nudger. And I can nudge your sisters out of your way if you let me have Udnas. And he's like, "Oh, BT Dubs, your child is grown up and he's his own person. He's living his own life, being, you know, you don't have to bother your kid." And then Udnas at the end is like, "I summoned you into my dream." I'm like, but Also, they're kind of jerking you around in your dreams. So, not exactly the power play you might think.
Errant's like, I'll make you a deal. And Minodora's like, let me think about it. Yes.
Yeah. And then Udnas wakes up and Kettle's like, it seems like you were really dreaming hard. In fact, the whole temple fell down because it felt so bad. And Udnas is like, I'm one step ahead of these gods.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do what the Errant wants, but not how he thinks. All right, Udnas.
And as he's chatting with Kettle, he's like, "Oh, this is also a dream."
Yeah.
And so he has this conversation with Kettle that's very ominous, and then he's like, "Okay, get into your own head." And she's like, "All right," and pieces out. And then he wakes up, and he is feverish and
he's like, I just want to go back to dreams about food.
Yeah.
And then we head over to Saren Pedak and the gang with Fear, and I mean that's this, the same group. Udnas is there, but she's like, I wake up, and Udnas is like, yeah, you guys, I had dreams, and there's really crazy stuff happening in them, including the fact that Kettle is gonna eat Fear somehow, like he's gonna fall into her mouth, and also Clip is gonna dip his hands in blood
or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, okay, man,
sure,
you're feverish.
Let's get you to bed.
Yeah. And Saren's like, okay, well, I'm going to go over here and just dig up some ice.
I like how they're in this mountain. There's not, and even like on where they're at, there's not clean snow to melt down.
Yeah.
Because every time you dig into it, it's filled with like ash, but also bits of meat and like rotting things.
That's so gross. Yeah.
And Saren's like trying to be like, if it was just ash, I could be like, okay, a volcano exploded. But she's just kind of like, what in the heck happened up here?
Yeah.
So she kind of like meanders a little bit away, like ends up chipping out this like a little bit of cleaner snow and unearths like a sick ass spear.
So sick.
Whew.
Made out of antler
Layered, so it looks like scales along the whole thing, and then a
sick
jade
spear.
tip.
Yeah. And then Clip wanders over. He's like, hey, what you doing with that spear?
I love this scene. I pulled it as one of my favorite
All right, I won't ruin it, but it is weird where he's like, I don't hide in trees or throw fruit. And she's like, what?
She's like, shut up.
Yeah. And then he does some sick disses to Silchus, where he's like, he wasn't born in darkness. I was born in darkness. Mm-hmm. And also kind of insinuates that Udnas and Saren Pedak are kind of a threat to Silchus.
And she's like, we're basically incompetent and can do nothing and have to just kind of follow you both.
Yeah.
So that seems weird. Anyway, this seems like a good walking stick for Udnas. And Clip is like,
the grandest spear of all time is like, you know what? He could use that as a crutch.
Yeah. The craftsmanship on this is impeccable. Perfect for our crippled friend over here.
Yeah. And Clip is like, spears. I could beat anybody who uses a spear.
and everybody's like
he doesn't know about Troll Sengar.
And I love the fact that he's immediately like embarrassed or like he's like, okay, I'm not in on the joke. There's a joke and I'm not part of it. He's such like an angsty emo teen.
Such a teen.
Clip. I know that in our comments people are like, we hate Clip. And I see it, but I'm also deeply enamored with Clip.
Then speaking of Troll Sengar, we head over to Troll and Onrak and Quick Ben. And Quick Ben's like, man, there's so many people who have died in my life. This sucks. And they're just standing there and there's wading through the water. The giant catfish show up again. And they're like, giant catfish.
Well, I love that they're wading through the water and Quick Ben's like, it'd be so much easier if these two dudes weren't so sick as hell. Like, clearly we're gonna be buddies, but all my buddies die. And then they're like, I guess they've been talking about those fish being the ones that are probably the same ones. Oh, they seem to be getting bigger. Well, they seem to be getting closer. Onrak's like, those are definitely the fish. And Quickpen's like, well, it doesn't seem to be super dangerous yet. And they're like, well, we thought you were warding us. And he's like, you thought I was warding you? And they're like, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here.
Can you open
now.
a gate at least and get us out of here? Are you too weak from your fight with Ikariam? He's like, I'm not weak. I'm just worried about where we're going.
And I don't necessarily know what's going to happen when we get to the other side.
Also, Onrak, it feels like something weird. Anyway, let's go into the gate. And they jump in and Onrak's like, oh, I've got flesh.
Ooh,
and he kind of turns into, I don't know what your take was, but he turns into like kind of what the aerosol is, right?
My take on it was like kind of Neanderthal-ish.
Yeah, right. That's how I. That's how I
later
conceive
than
of the
aerosol. The aerosol, I think of much more, much earlier. I don't know the right history of evolution, but I think of it as like, an evolutionary generation before Neanderthal.
Yeah.
But I definitely picture him as like that. What was it? Like pre-Barghast.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of visuals.
And Troll is like, no, my Skelly Bones friend.
Troll says no?
I think he starts crying. Doesn't he start freaking out?
No, I thought Onrak was crying because he was like
I thought it was Troll who was like, no, my friend
I could be wrong there. I imagine that the way I read it, I thought Onrak was the one who was like crying and just like, maybe it was Troll looking at Onrak and being like, oh, we're in Talon, which is like your zone. I don't remember who was crying now, but I pictured it as Onrak, like just sort of being like, my face is wet. Wow, where are we? Talon.
I have squishy parts.
What is this? What is this? Heat?
Yeah.
But it could have been Troll. I thought even if Troll was crying, I wouldn't have pictured it. It's like, no, but him like feeling for him. Yeah. I felt like it was a tears of emotion from somebody. One of those two guys.
It's just so crazy how Quickben is like, okay, so I'm going to open the gate, but if we go in, it could be weird, but like, let's do it anyway. And then they go in and the craziest thing ever happens.
Yeah. Like, okay, you really made it a lot. You buried the lead here.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. You undersold how
you're so powerful. You undid the curse that we brought upon ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we head over to Red Mask, who's like, all right, time for me to get you guys amped up for this battle. Let me tell you a little quick story about Bast Fumar and how sweet it is that we're fighting here because no magic. Meow, 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 meow.
I did like how he built up this story because like immediately it's like, well, he's talking about the Talanamas. And it's like, what a funny, maybe he's just talking about that they're great warriors. And it's kind of like, okay, these folks don't know what's up about these people. But then the twist at the end being like, they used it all up, baby. This land is empty. I really liked that as a little twisty twist.
Sweet. They literally killed the magic. They killed the land.
They murdered
so that
it.
Magic is dead here.
Yeah, cool.
Sick.
But also like, you didn't have to. The Jagged were pretty nice people all around.
I know, right? Yeah. And they don't even know we're going to fight here. They think they can kill us with magic, but they can't use their magic. So then then stuff gets real crazy. Because we head back over to Atrapreta Yantovis, who I thought, not the most central of characters.
Yeah.
Well,
psych.
Yeah. She shows up at Boral Keep.
Mm-hmm.
More like Boral Keep, you know what I'm saying? And she's looking for somebody.
The guy.
Boral Dresh.
Dresh, yeah.
But just walks in on the two like servant ladies.
Oh no, she was looking for the Master at Arms.
Oh, that's right. No,
Yeah.
no. Is she looking for the Master at Arms then?
Yeah, she was like looking
No,
for
she
the guy.
decides to go get the Master at Arms after this conversation.
I thought that she showed up at the keep to talk to the Master at Arms, and they're like, Master at Arms not here. And she's like, well, who is here? And they're like, the Dresh guy, but he's drunk, and we're gonna give you so much information that she's like, are you witches? And they're like, yeah.
Well, she sees their talon feet.
Toesies. Yeah.
And she's like, wait a second. You're Shake ladies. And
Which-
they're like, yeah. And guess what? You're our queen.
Oh, by the way, your mom's dead. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. She's like, I demand you. First of all, she finds out that they've been cursing this place for generations, right?
Mhm.
That they've been killing all the wives and driving all the husbands nuts as payback.
Was it payback? I, for some reason, got it in my head that the guy who ran that place, the Dresh guy, like got them to like bound them somehow. I think
my understanding is that there's Sheikh and the Sheikh have been basically wiped out, and they're pissed about that because and as payback because the Dresh like murdered all the Sheikh.
Yeah.
And so they're pissed, and so they're taking out their rage and revenge on the Dresh.
Oh, see, I pictured it somehow as they had gotten like bound to him or something because they were like, we only kill the wives when he asks us to. So I thought they were like cursing the place, but like at this dude's command, who's a piece of garbage.
That may be the case, but he's also dead. We find
he
out
will
later.
be dead.
Yeah,
because actually who's this Twilight? It was like, all right, kill that guy. He sucks. Well, they're like,
that's
wake
her.
him up.
That's Jan Tovis.
Jan Tovis.
Yeah,
is like, okay, that dude sucks. He's like having a drunken sleep. They're like, bring him out. He has to like face his crime. So we're gonna call in the Idir. But then I think that she was like, the Idir are just gonna kill this guy. And so when
she shows up and he's already dead.
Is he dead? I thought she was like, figure it out. I'm going to go over here. He will be dead by the time we get back there because she commanded them to like, stop cursing this place. Right. Okay. Bring that guy out. Get the Idir over here. They're going to kill this guy because that's going to be the punishment for the crimes that he's had of killing his wives. And so by the time we bring my half brother back, which we find out, because she's like, where's the Master at Arms? And he wrote out. And then after they start talking, and she's like, okay, who's the Master at Arms? And they're like, it's your brother. And she's like, it's all connected now. And so
it's basically, she's like, I command you to stop the curse with the power vested in me as princess. And they're like, princess, you the queen. Because your mom died. She's like, my mom died? I never even knew my mom, but also I'm super sad. And she's like, and they're like, guess what? It gets crazier. Not only are you the queen, you're betrothed to a dude you've never met.
Yeah. Seems like you
queen got to have a king.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that it's a dude we've met, Brelig, Sheikh Brelig at Second Maiden Fort, which we also find out Second Maiden Fort is where the Sheikh used to reside, right? That used to be their island.
This whole time when they were like, oh, Sheikh Brelig.
Yeah.
And when we were like having this conversation with these two witches and they're like, where's Sheikh? And I was like, isn't there another Sheikh? I just thought that was that dude's name.
I think the way that this regionality refers to people is like, like Canadian Lana or, whatever. It's like, that's their sort of method of honorifics.
Yeah.
And so she's betrothed to Sheikh Bralik, and she's like, oh, never met that dude. And also, yes, as you said, your brother is the Master at Arms. Half brother, right. Yedin Derig, who's also known as the Watch.
Mm-hmm.
So then she's like, okay, well, I got to go find him.
So she takes some fresh horses and she rides out with some bros.
Yeah.
In the meantime, she's like, scrub the bricks or whatever you've been doing to curse this place.
Yeah.
Get that guy dead. Call the Idir. They're going to come in and then they're going to leave again and it's going to be fine.
Right.
She goes out to the Osh, to the shore, which is like specifically the shoreline is sort of like where their magic resides. Is this sort of a space?
Well, that's their whole culture is all about this the water versus the land, and how
Mhm.
the shore is very powerful because it's where those two places meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the shore where Sheikh Brullig is, it has no communication. It's been somehow severed in
Yeah, it
some
used to
way.
have land bridges, and now those have been flooded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she goes out to the shore, finds her half brother. Right away, they're like, "Hey!" He's like, "I recognize you. Look, I saw
Yeah.
you when you was a baby. I can tell that it's you." She's like, "What are
Yeah.
you doing out here?" And he's like, "Watching."
I'm the
She's
watch.
like, "What?
That's what I do.
I'm the watch. I'm watching."
She's like, "What time is it?" He's like, "Not that kind of watch." Yeah. Well, anyway, that's how the chapter ends, is that stuff. But before that, we go and we have the crazy battle,
Mm.
which is, we don't have to get too far into it, but basically, like, they poison all the war dogs. They all did.
Mhm.
And
They realize they can't use their magic, but they're still like, "Yeah, but
Yeah.
we have battle tactics, and they're
yeah, we
just
don't need
animals."
magic. We still can fight them iron versus iron. No probs. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Is their organization that they show off in this all Quickben's influence to like give them training stuff? Or was that Red
Ooh.
Mask knowing those?
Uh,
Because like that when they untie Quickben from his little post behind the period tent, he was like, "All right, I know my value
You mean
to
quick?
you."
You're talking about Talk, not Quick Ben.
Yeah, sorry. Talk.
Yeah.
Talk was like, "All right, you chumbawumbas.
Yeah.
I know military tactics, even though I never loved being a soldier."
That's
And
right.
so I think he like taught them some stuff. I assume that's why
Ooh,
they're
I
in
did.
such
Yeah, I
formation.
guess he did. He taught them how they would probably. I didn't. My reaction was that it was more Red Mask being awesome and doing all the cool stuff with the horse archers, and like them doing the unexpected.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking outside the box.
Mm,
But also, there was a lot of detail in this fight, which I thought was cool. But also, I didn't grok all of it because it's very tactical and
yeah. The
you know.
pieces that I feel like I got was that you have Atri Preda with like her like sort of standard formations, assuming
Yeah.
that they're going to fight in this place. There's like tiny, I'm gonna, for lack of the correct word, trenches that are built throughout. That she's like, yeah, but they can't like sneak attack us from behind using these things because they're not deep enough. We'll see them, and if they get funneled into one, let's hope they do because we can just get them. And they're like, wouldn't they anticipate that? And she's like, maybe. Anyway, they have like, she notices right away that they have actual formations with spearmen, and they're kicking up all this dust. So
Yeah.
it's daylight. She's being told that they can't use the magic. She's like, that's fine. But there's the dust is starting to obscure. The sunlight is in their eyes. They all sort of strike out. Immediately, they're able to kind of like lance in and get like a quick attack at the beginning. And then they bring out these horses eventually to like push down. And they're like, oh, they're going to do this one formation, but then they sort of swoop around in a big line and then they do arrow stuff.
Yeah.
And she thought they were going to go in and attack more directly. So they sort of flank them and like pelt them with arrows from behind and then retreat again. And then they bust out these carts that are like, have a bunch of spears attached to the beginning of them, the front of them, that are like these heavy carts that are also filled with warriors that they just push down the hill that like spear through everybody and kill whole swaths more of the armies. And then they jump out and then they have what I imagine are their like less experienced warriors within them because they're already decimating people. And in the meantime, she's like, okay, it's okay. We'll retreat to the camps. But then they do have war dogs, or what they think are war dogs, demons going and attacking their camps and their backline. So they can't retreat anyway. But it's actually, they could change them all like slicing and dicing, baby.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, the sort of the straw that breaks the camel's back, for lack of a better term, the thing that really turns the tide is that they attack their supply line, right? With the Kel hunters, and the Kachinchamal just like, and they're like, oh, that's okay because we put our supply lines back where we can still use magic, so we're gonna magic these velociraptors and be powerless against it. That doesn't matter. They're like, it like lifts them up in the air and they're like, we'll still slice you in the air, no problem.
It like lifts them up in the air so that their little talon feet can grab you.
Yeah. Yeah. Brutal,
Mhm.
intense, and we basically see all of it through the eyes of the losing side,
Yeah.
which is like, oh, it's okay, we're still all right, we're still okay. Oh, nope, that's still bad. Okay, no, but I can still handle. Oh, nope. And then she has this revelation where she's like, I've been outwitted
In every facet.
in every way you can be. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, I also just like it basically at every turn. She's like, well, they can't possibly be doing that. Or she basically always be like, they are 100% doing this now. And they would have some twist on the thing that she thought they were doing. And
Yeah.
because they don't have magic, she's trying to use like runners to talk about things or to send messages. And so some people are retreating, and some like the army's just a mess because they've been so reliant on the
Yeah.
magic that they
Yep.
don't actually know how to function properly without it.
Crazy. So and then
Mhm.
the chapter ends with the stuff we were talking about before, where Yantovis meets up with her half bro, and we get a kind of a lore dump on what the Shake were, and it's pretty crazy that they have like demon blood in them. There's these seeds that infected pregnancies, basically. Or at least this is how I read it.
Yeah.
And they would have demon babies that would come out with clawed hands and little tangly tails,
They
and
like body snatch the babies and turn them,
yeah,
like change them from what they would have been
reptile
into.
faces.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they would just siphon those off into these Shake covens and be like, that's cool, take the babies, and they'll raise them as Shake coven witches. And then sometimes they just threw them into the sea. Just like, nah, it's too much demon blood in that one. Let's throw it into the sea.
Yeah.
It's too demonic. And but now they want to sort of bring the Shake back. Yantovis and her brother and half brother, and I guess her husband to be. She's like, she chose her company because of their Shake ancestry. So the Shake are like
Throughout.
coming back.
Yeah. And then as they're chatting, they're like, what's over there?
Yeah.
He's like,
That seems
this is what I've been watching for.
rather.
Oh.
They're gonna have to change my name to the Found. The Noticed.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds of boats on fire, and the Malazans have shown up, but the boats aren't Malazan, right?
They are Malazan.
Why are they on fire?
That's the part I don't understand.
Because I feel like the dun 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 at the end of not just a chapter but a whole sub book, the whole is the Malazans are here. It ends with they are here on this shore. The Malazans are on our shore.
Yeah.
But if their boats are on fire, it feels like not that big of a threat, right?
Well, I feel like it's almost like a sign of, hey, if they were able to burn the boats down unnoticed, then there would be no evidence that they were there. They would just suddenly be taking stuff over. And so I feel like it's almost a sign of confidence, being like, we're not going back until we're taking your boats to get back out of here.
But
And
what set the boats on fire?
I don't know. My brain says that it is the Malazans themselves igniting them as like a weird strategy. Do I understand it? No. The only thing that came to mind is that it was a choice that they made to try and be under the radar, but I don't know how setting a giant
the
blaze,
opposite of being under the radar.
I know. Just hide them. Sink them.
Don't notice our burning fleet.
So I don't know what would have caused the fire, but that's where my head went. It's like, it's a weird strategic
So
thing.
are we going to see all of our friends, the bone hunters, on these boats? Is that the Malazans we're talking about?
I think so.
Yeah. I am very, very intrigued. I'm sure all these questions are going to be answered pretty quickly in the next week.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I was like, the idea that the Malazans are here is a pretty big dun-dun-dun, but I just did not understand why they're on fire.
I don't know. I'm like, I just am like, the Malazans said 3 steps ahead. There's a reason.
Yeah.
What I really like about this chapter is, if my impression is correct, and the All's strategy that they used against the Atri Preda in that fight was Talk's influence for like however long that he's been hanging out with them, being like, that's Talk being like, here's some Malazan stuff. Their completely green army was able to like execute that and demolish, having the Malazan show up and being like, we've been doing this since we was born.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like,
but on whose side are the Malazans, right? I guess their
side, the Empire. And so I picture that as like the foreshadowing of this continent is not ready for the fight that the Malazans bring. If that in Talk's influence wipe people out and they like just started, these learned soldiers are going to crush this domain. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Well, we got some favorite sections from this grouping of reading. I think I have two.
I think I actually only have one. Ba-ba.
There it is. I picked some action stuff this week because I usually pick like the more philosophical bits. One real short one that I have that I just love is a single line. That woman gives witches a bad name. I love that. Samar Dev talking about
Feather Witch.
Feather Witch. She's like, that woman gives witches a bad name. Such a great line. So good.
I did pick two, and it was the section I referred to earlier. It's this Ormley talking to what's her face? Rucket. Yeah. Ormley. You do it on purpose, don't you? Men always assume beautiful women think of nothing but sex, or are obsessed with the potential thereof, and at any and every moment. But I assure you, food possesses a sensuality rarely achieved in clumsy gropings on some flea-bitten mattress with errant drafts sending chills through you at every change of position. Ormley's withered face twisted into a scowl. Change of position? What does that mean? Something tells me there is no legion of beleaguered women bemoaning the loss of one Ormley.
So good. So good. Such a sick burn. All right, so this is an action sequence I thought was awesome. Horses screamed. Brawl found himself to the demon's right, almost within reach of those scything sword blades, and he stared in horror as that viper's head snapped forward, jaws closing on the neck of a horse, closing, crunching, then tearing loose, blood spraying, its mouth still filled with meat and bone, the horse's spine half ripping loose from the horrid gap left in the wake of those savage jaws. A blade cut in half, the warlock astride that mount, the other sword slashed down, chopping through another warlock's thigh, the saddle, then deep into the horse's shoulder, smashing scapula, then ribs. The beast collapsed beneath the blow as the rider, the severed stump of his leg gushing blood, pitched over, balanced for a moment on the one stirrup, then sprawled to land on the ground, even as another horse's stamping foot descended onto his upturned face.
Oh, so good.
Sick. I also love that moment. We forgot to mention it, but I love when the guy,
whatever his name is some other B name.
He finds out, he realizes that he stabbed himself with his own sword.
I loved that, especially because he was also like, if they're retreating, we're already dead, but we got this. Everything's fine. And then he's like, I killed myself.
It's so funny. Yeah.
And then here's my other section, which is Clip talking to Saren after she found the spear. And you have to picture like a truly angsty, like emo kid, like hair of the face. Spear you found, it's Telanamos. Is that supposed to mean something to me? It will. It's not a weapon you fight with, is it? No. And I don't hide in trees and throw fruit either. She frowned. He laughed, turning away. I was born in darkness, Aquator. And? He paused, glanced back at her. Why do you think I'm the mortal sword of the black-winged lord? My good looks? My charming personality? My skill with these blades here? Well, she replied, you've just exhausted my list of reasons. Ha ha. Hear me. Born in darkness, blessed by our mother, the first in thousands of years. She turned away, you know. From her chosen sons? Thousands of years, more like tens of thousands, but not from me. I can walk in the darkness, Aquator. He waved his chain-spinning hand back towards the others. Not even Silchus Ruin can make that claim. Does he know? No. And this is our secret for as long as you choose. And why would I choose not to tell him this, Clip? Because I'm the only one here who can keep him from killing you. You and Udanos, the two he considers most useless. Indeed, potential enemies. Enemies? Why would he think that? She shook her head in disbelief. We're just bugs he can crush underfoot anytime he likes. An enemy is one who poses a threat. We don't. Well, on that count, I see no need to enlighten you. Yet.
He's so anime. You know, he's just like, I was born in darkness.
It's anime and then cutting to like, well, you don't understand how like really cool I am, but also like mysterious.
No one else is born in darkness but me. I was born in darkness.
Yeah, our mom
so
like
funny.
ignored him for like 1,000 years. Actually 10,000 years maybe even.
So great. All right, so I also love this the fight between the Segula and Karsa, and I wanted to read it. An explosion of motion as the two contestants closed. Afterwards, none could agree on who moved first, as if some instinctive agreement was reached between the Segula and Karsa and acted upon faster than thought itself. And as iron rang on stone or stone on iron, Karsa Orlong did something unexpected. Pounded down with one foot, hard onto the packed sand. In the midst of the Segula's lithe dance, pounded down hard enough to stagger onlookers as the entire compound floor thundered. The Segula's perfect balance vanished. No doubt it was but a fraction, the dislodging so minor few would even register it, and no doubt her recovery was as instantaneous. But she was already reeling back to a savage blow with the flat of Karsa's blade, both wrists broken by the impact. Yet as she toppled, she twisted, one foot lashing up towards the Toblakai's crotch. He caught her kick with one hand, blocking the blow, then boldly lifted her into the air. She swung the other foot, and the Toblakai, laughing, released his sword and snagged that leg as well, and held her there, dangling. So sick.
So dope.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a baller.
Very cool. Karsa Orlong, total baller.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks, folks, for being with us this week. We got 2 more chapters next week. Lana and I have not talked about how this is going to work because we have Thanksgiving next week. So, you know, stay tuned, but we're going to try to make it work. Either way, we really
Thanks
appreciate
for the non-spoiler topics. Excellent
Yes.
ones. Love to see them come in.
DLCfeedback@gmail.com is where you can send those. We appreciate it. Have a great week. Don't forget to dance.
When the world's too dark of a place to be, and you need an escape from reality, open up those pages. It's our cry or fantasy, whatever genre you please. And join a book club, 'cause you won't read it on your own. Join a book club, so you'll be held accountable. It's just a means to an end, but you're doing it with your friends, so join the book club.